He just needed it. Like
So we're
food.
talking.
He didn't.
You know when people describe these like predators as like just like hungry, eat like animals almost. Like we're talking about someone who is just an animal. Like at that point, he's not thinking. He's just
fucking.
Yeah.
Basically. They do almost. It's not really a everyday mentality, is it? These people are sort of turned over time to become this kind of character.
Psychopathic child predators. It's unique. Yeah, there's not many. I don't believe there's many at that level of wealth. You know, Bill Clinton's got that. He was on the Lolita Express. What was it, 26 times?
So can you explain what that means? The Lolita Express.
Okay, so Epstein had the paedophile island,
Uh-huh.
which I mentioned earlier, and he also had the Lolita Express, which was a plane with a bed. So it was out of any legal jurisdiction. It's flying around. He's got the victims trapped in this, into the sky, basically, on this plane, and the girls were servicing the customers on the Lolita Express. Now,
How do you know Bill Clinton was on this, sorry?
Okay, one of the things that gave me a head up on who the conspirators are, the main suspects in the murder, are the people who protested the most about their innocence. And right away, Bill Clinton came out and disavowed Epstein. He then said he'd only been on his planes 4 times. But according to the flight manifest...
Okay, so this is the log that will have it.
Clinton was on it almost 30 times that we know of, at least.
If you're going to have a paedophile plane, why keep a log manifest? Why?
Is that sort of the law, though, that if someone gets on a plane...
There are aviation laws.
Right,
That's
so you
it.
have to log every person who gets on that plane.
Yeah.
Which makes it sort of a stupid plan in the first place.
Well, it's also very stupid of Clinton to say only 4 times when he's going to be rumbled for it. So...
Well,
So
they can
did it
do
come
whatever
out?
they want and get away with it, so they don't care.
Has it come out that he's been on, or is it just you and a few others? Who
No,
know?
it's generally accepted that Clinton has lied, that Clinton was on this Lolita Express almost 30 times, and that Clinton is deep in the mix, and that Epstein, it follows the trajectory of Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. And people wonder why Hillary found it so easy to forgive Clinton for fucking Monica Lewinsky, and it's like, that was literally the tip of the iceberg. And she was well aware of it.
That Monica Lewinsky thing was a publicity smokescreen for all the other stuff that was going on in Clinton's life at that point in time. He had multiple rape suits filed against him that he settled out of court.
All right.
So when you saw Hillary doing speeches and people showing up with Billy's a Rapist t-shirts during the election campaign, that's what that was all about. And Trump actually brought to one of the events, he brought Bill's rape victims that he settled with. They were all next to him in a row at one of the events.
So why...
Trump doesn't give a fuck, to be fair, like, does he?
Well, Trump has already said that he knew Epstein was a womanizer, but the difference between him and Epstein was that Epstein liked underage girls.
So
He
why
said he liked young girls.
So why has Epstein got Trump's number so much in his book?
Well, they're all in the mix together, aren't they? They're just different mafias.
Right, but so Trump isn't exactly blameless in this, or he's not? We just don't have any proof of what he's
All
done.
these are different mafias that are at war with each other. You got the Bush and Clinton crime families working together. You got the Trump mafia working against the Clintons. They're saying he's working with the Russians. It's just warfare.
It's funny. It literally is just like gangsters, isn't it? But at such a level where they're untouchable.
They're untouchable. They don't have to raise a finger. They could kill anyone anywhere in the world.
So at the same time, it doesn't feel as glamorous as the real mafia. It doesn't feel as nice. Or
they don't have the accents or the music. But
not only that,
or the meatballs.
They're also doing it. So the mafia, for me, always feels a little bit like they're trying to maintain a community. There's something about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like self-policing in Italy in some ways. And I know mafia did terrible things. These people are just doing it all for self-interest.
Well, it's old school Italian mafia. You don't harm women or kids.
Yeah.
But these deviants, just trafficking girls from Eastern Europe that are kids and then having orgies with them and having them have sex with each other with strap-ons, that's a different level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you concerned that you might not have your facts right in regards to pointing the finger at the Clintons? Have you naturally investigating this before you go out on a video and say these things? You got to think, I better fucking have this right, because you haven't got you've got a lot of evidence, but you haven't got the picture, the thing that proves that Clinton did it. You've got 27 times on a plane that was used in a lot of sex crimes, but you haven't got the final piece of the puzzle here. Are you concerned that you might have it wrong?
And you never will with the Clintons, because it all gets swept under the carpet. All of my research is based on the Arkansas State Police who work for Bill Clinton, the ones who are still alive, that is, and the victims' statements about what actually happened with them and these elite paedophiles. So the trajectory of the Arkansas murders, I believe, goes all the way to Epstein. I'm not saying that Bill Clinton solely was the grand conspirator, but I think he is definitely at the top of that pyramid. So I've written extensively about Pablo Escobar. So let's say the Cali cartel and the Medellin cartel are not at war, they're at peace. So say someone in Cali has pissed off Pablo Escobar and that person's got to go. So Pablo Escobar would get on the phone to Gilberto, the head of the Cali cartel, and say, this person's got to go. Now let's look at this in the context of Epstein. So you've got the legal eruption was in America, the liability was there. Who's just come out of government in America? Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. They've got a massive power base in politics in America. Who's the other person who's got the most to lose about this? Who people are focusing on? Prince Andrew, the royal mafia. So you get the royal, Prince Andrew puts a call in to Clinton or whoever over there.
They've got a common goal.
This is on your turf.
Yeah.
You got to clean this up, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I think it went down, something like that.
Mm-hmm. In regards to Clinton, you've got a bit of proof in that he silenced people. Have you looked into the testimonies from those victims, or are they completely silenced? Have they? Because you know how they have to sign in an NDA or whatever. Have any of them spoken out after that or not?
Well, some have done stuff over the years. Mm-hmm. They did stuff with Trump, so I'm not exactly sure under the terms of their non-disclosure agreements how they were able to do all that. But some have spoken out, and anyone can Google online Bill Clinton, sexual assault suits, non-disclosure agreements, and you'll see all that stuff will come right up.
I suppose with a non-disclosure agreement, if you're just sitting there as part of what most people say is a random group, you've not legally disclosed anything. You could be sitting there just randomly, couldn't you?
Like in The Godfather, when they brought in the relative and he was about to testify.
Exactly.
That's a mafia move, right?
This person just happens to be there, and Bill Clinton obviously knows who that is. But yeah.
So can we go into the circumstances around Epstein's death?
Yes.
Now then? So you described how the second time the journalist found out he'd been going with these women in the prison. What happened from that then? How did he get... Because he was on day release. It seemed like he was allowed to leave the prison during the day.
Okay, so when one of these elite paedophile power players is uncovered at that level, they'll sacrifice the lower level in a heartbeat, but at the higher level of Epstein, the paedophile circle will protect that person as far as possible. So in the first case, the sweetheart deal, Acosta was the prosecutor who handled that for the paedophile circle. He was Epstein was given this pass. And Acosta, has took all this criticism for that, and he was part of, Trump's government now as well. So
wow.
This all, like I said, the incestuous thing. Once the media frenzy gets so big that this powerful circle can no longer protect even a high-level player, then that player gets sacrificed. So with Jimmy Savile, they protected him. And he died.
To the end.
To the end.
Yeah.
They protected him to the end. With Epstein, they tried to protect him on the first round, but on the second round, he had to go.
So with Savile, because he was really, really old, when it all came out about him after he died, there was no need to worry because there was no he wasn't going to uncover any, he wasn't going to give any testimony. So it was like it all died with him. Whereas they didn't have that luxury with Epstein, did they?
It's the criminal case, once it gets into the court system, and things are documented legally, certain government agencies have to act on that information. So that's why Epstein was killed, because to stop that from arising. And that's why Ghislaine Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel will be next.
So before we get into that, the second case happens after that brave journalist who you mentioned uncovers more of his issues.
Yeah.
Is that what led him to go into this prison cell where he eventually killed himself, allegedly killed himself?
They couldn't protect him anymore. He's now saying that he's going to start giving up names. He says, I'm going to give up 5 names because he wants to cut a deal to try and get his sentence reduced. He's getting legal visits all day long. There's no way he thinks he's going to lose this case. Again, he's thinking, I'm going to play the system. He's got this thing called a double jeopardy motion filed in the court system. And what that means is you cannot be convicted twice of the same crimes. And here we go again, round 2 for the same crimes. So he thinks he's going to play the system again and get out of it. He's even telling his lawyers, this is going to work out. Even right up until the end, he's got all these legal visits all day long. He's in good spirits. But if you go to 3 weeks prior to his death, that's when the weird things started to happen. So we got the 2 grand conspiracies that are described, and we've named some of the major players. And there's probably a lot more people out there that are co-conspirators. But now we've also got to look at the methods of the murder and the instrument of the murder and how that was played out. Because I do have a suspect of the instrument who either did it or has knowledge of what actually happened.
To my knowledge, there was a suicide attempt before the final day he died. Is that right? When he was in
3
prison?
weeks prior to his death, he was found unconscious in his jail cell with injuries to his neck. Now, in prison, there's a rule when you go in. I think we talked about this in Wolf of Wall Street 1, where the gang members come up to you right away, and it's a charge check. What are your charges? So if you've got a sex offence, it's KOS, kill on sight. And these gang members will do that right away if you're going to get attacked at the very least. So they put into Epstein's cell this massive guy, Nicholas Tartaglione, who's murdered 4 dudes in a drug deal gone bad. He lured them to his brother's nightclub, I think. 4 dudes. And I think they were buried in his garden or something like that. This guy was also an ex-cop.
Right.
So he's got ties to law enforcement as well. Now, the natural order of things in prison is such that if you've murdered 4 people and someone gets put in your cell that is a sex offender, I don't know any case where that guy would not attempt to murder that person, even without getting paid off to do it. But I also believe that there's a possibility that this guy's facing the death penalty. Someone could have said, hey, do us a favor here and we'll only give you life in prison, or we'll give you 25 and you'll be up for parole after 25. There could have been some kind of quid pro quo like that. Because if you look at photos of this guy, Nicholas Tartaglione, it's like, oh my God.
Are they openly available online?
Yeah, Nicholas Tartaglione.
Google Images, boom.
Put Epstein's cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, and you should flash a photo of that up on the video just so people can see.
Our editor will be right on that.
If ever there was
Is he a big guy?
If ever there was
look.
He's got a lot of dogs though. It's quite sweet, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Mate, he's a fucking giant.
He's a killing machine, isn't he?
Squeezing someone's head off their fucking shoulders for him wouldn't be too much trouble.
He could rip Epstein's head straight off.
No problem. Pop it off.
Yeah.
Okay,
so let's go back to the 3 weeks.
He looks like your worst nightmare as a cellmate.
Oh my God, he looks even bigger in that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Let's
go. Get to that size in prison?
They get steroids smuggled in.
No shit.
Man.
So Epstein is found unconscious in the cell 3 weeks prior to his death. Epstein said to his lawyers that he was attacked by this guy. And after the incident, he was placed on suicide watch. 6 days later, on July 29th, he was taken off suicide watch and placed in a special housing unit with another inmate. Epstein's close associates said he was in good spirits. Now, if you're going to take someone out in prison, you've got to make it look like a normal method that prisoners use to kill themselves. And there's all kinds of different methods prisoners use to kill themselves. So you got hanging, people can just get bed sheets, try and hang from the ceiling or the windows, or they can just lean without even put their own weight on them, or flush the sheet down the toilet and lean it. I had ex-prison guard on my true crime podcast, Neil Samworth, and he was talking about, he found a corpse that was just leaning like that forward. That's how he'd hung himself. A hot shot, which is an overdose of heroin. 90% of prisoners injecting drugs where I was housed. Gang member doesn't like you, sticks a needle in you, overdose of heroin. Guards find that's just another dead junkie as far as they're concerned. Jumping. You got people jumping off balconies. Sometimes in Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail, they wouldn't even die. They'd just break their legs, break their spines, and they'd still be alive in the jail. You got suicide by guard. I once saw this guy just run past my cell. He had like a neckerchief over his face with like a 1 foot long shank. He's at the fence just yelling at the guard, yelling at the guards. They bring out a SWAT team with live rounds, and they're all just facing him, and they're gonna just mow him down, but he backed down at the last minute, so they didn't kill him.
But yeah, if you wanted to just run at them, and have
they're
shot,
gonna just wipe you out.
Yeah, exactly.
You die pretty quick that way.
Yeah. Then you got hunger strike, and you got people doing crazy stuff like drinking bleach, eating razor blades, all kinds. So of all of those methods, if you're gonna whack someone in a jail, I reckon hanging and hot shot are going to be the two easiest to facilitate to get away with it.
And hanging seems like the one that would be the most believable, that he did it, and therefore, right, there's nothing to say here, let's all move on with our lives.
How easy is it to just choke someone out and put them to sleep?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you watch any UFC fight, you'll know how to do that pretty quickly. So this guy could have been choked out and then just, we'll just pop the bed sheet round his neck afterwards, and there you go.
Sprinkle some crack on it.
Yeah.
Run away.
But not only that, the video footage from around that time in the prison.
Oh God!
The cameras all malfunctioned.
It's 9/11 all over again, Lawrence.
This happens a lot.
Yeah.
Whoever's installing the
can
cameras.
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You work with cameras all the time.
All the time.
How often does the cameras fail?
Unless it's Roven working with them, they don't malfunction often. I'll be completely honest.
No, I'll have a bad word said about him.
Yeah.
So that makes it massively suspicious.
And the guards on duty all fell asleep.
No way.
To be fair, was a Sunday night. So.
Yeah. Can I ask? So, do you know where? Do you know how CCTV in a prison works?
Yeah.
So, does it go to one central place? What does it do? Like, do you necessarily know that, or does it go to an office in the prison, or does it go to somewhere else where it's then kept?
Okay, so
where is it recorded?
Yeah.
In Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail, where guards were murdering mentally ill prisoners, and I've got videos of them doing it on my YouTube channel. I obtained that footage. So
just to be clear,
Yeah.
you know, Sean, earlier when you said, I don't know why I'm getting demonetized.
I mean, literally, pal. You probably have better luck if you just knocked a wank out and uploaded that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely clear, Sean. You're a smart guy. Come on, let's connect the dots.
Okay, so how did you obtain that footage, for example?
Okay. All of the cameras are viewing all of the major areas,
Right.
like the day rooms and the hallways, and the prisoners going in and out of the cells and stuff like that. And some of the cameras can see into the cells as well. So all that footage is stored by the agency running the prison. So that was Arizona State in my case. In this case, it's the feds that would have had that video material. Now that video material becomes obtainable when there are lawsuits and people suing court, and it forces the prison to release the footage.
Right.
So in the case of the clip I got, family members of the victims of the guards sued the jail, and the jail was forced to release that video footage through the federal court system.
Right.
So that's how this footage comes out through the courts. But if the cameras have malfunctioned, you can file suit all day long, it's never going to come out. If the guards have fallen asleep, and if Nicholas Tartaglione has got earbuds in that night, so he conveniently can't hear anything. And
big men, we need earbuds.
Yeah.
But to be fair to him, I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, that must be terrible.
So Nicholas was not Epstein's cellmate at this point in time. So a lot of people are saying, so obviously Nicholas didn't kill Epstein because he was been moved to a different cell.
This was after the attack had happened. So they
After the first attack.
All right, so they moved him on after
in a neighbouring cell, though. Now, it is not difficult for prisoners to open their cell doors and go into other prisoners' cells. I've seen it happen.
Are they not locked off, though?
Yeah, they've got all kinds of different ways of getting in people's doors.
Okay.
They jimmy the locks and they put things in the locks, and before people get locked down, they put things in their locks.
Okay.
So
and if the prison guards are like, yeah, let's just let this happen, then it's a very, very easy then. Okay.
yeah, Tartaglione, I believe, is at the top of the murder suspect list. And even if he didn't do it with his bare hands, he has information. He knew what went on in that area on that night, and he knows a lot more that could possibly come out in the court system.
Do you know where he is now?
Yeah, he's getting
Released on Monday.
He's getting punished right now. Let me just say one other thing. The injuries that have been released to Epstein's neck, he had a hyoid fracture. And a hyoid fracture is more common with someone getting strangled to death than it is with suicide.
Right.
You can't rule suicide out, but it's way more common with homicide.
There's a different kind of trauma created when you're strangled than when you're allowing it to happen, isn't it? Because there's a struggle, isn't there? It's a total different thing going on.
And that's why this is such a brilliant way to kill someone and make it look like a death is by strangulation, because there's that overlap between the two. So the marks were more consistent with being choked than hanging himself, one expert said. Tartaglione was wearing...
Is this expert, sorry to interrupt you, mate, is this expert someone who's actually seen the body?
These are all medical experts that have given their opinions online, various. So Tartaglione was wearing earbuds when investigators went to question him about the incident. Epstein was found dead in the cell at Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City at 6:30 a.m. on August 10th, 2019. And the conventional news story was that he committed suicide because the conditions were so bad in the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Nobody heard anything, said Tartaglione's lawyer.
He was listening to his Rihanna album, apparently.
At the time, yeah.
Loved it.
It was a silent act, says Tartaglione's lawyer.
Wow.
Nick knows a hell of a lot about what went on. He was there during the first attempt, and he was there when he actually killed himself. He just wasn't in the same cell. So FBI and Justice Department Inspector General have launched investigators into Epstein's death. And like I said earlier, you've got the dad of the headmaster, who is one of the investigators. Tartaglione has not been contacted by investigators. He's facing the death penalty. And whether or not he'll be in a position to cooperate remains unclear, his lawyer said.
He'll be next though, won't he? They'll bump him off next, because what they'll have done is they'll have agreed something with him and then they'll get rid of him.
Well, he'll be like with Kennedy. It was Oswald and then Jack Ruby. He went off, didn't he? Tartaglione certainly has information that would be very valuable to the investigation if they want access to it. So Tartaglione, they're saying that he's been kicking off about the conditions, so they've been punishing him for that in the jail.
Right.
Big men get uncomfortable easy. I empathise with them a lot.
Yeah.